Hey guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead, and today we're going to be talking about Madolches. Before we get into the video, be sure to go ahead and check out our last video if you're interested in learning how to play Infernoids. So, there are actually two versions of the Madolche deck. What you see on the screen right now is the version I believe is the best. However, this video will also showcase the other version. You can see there's not a whole lot of monsters in this deck. That's because right now in Duel Links we don't actually have enough of the Madolches that actually get our play started. If we had more of them, consistently set up a turn 1 and consistently OTK the opponent if we went second, but you know, right now we don't have enough starters in the game. So basically this version of Madolche, its game plan is to turn 1 set a bunch of back row to keep yourself alive and also hopefully allow yourself to take some amount of damage so you can activate the skill Draw Sense Low Level. This one can be used before your normal draw each time your life points decrease by 1000, and one of the cards from your normal draw this turn will be a random level 4 or lower monster in your deck, and you're trying to get Madolche Madolche because it is a 1-card combo. This card will give you everything just on normal summon. Because we need that normal summon to go through, we're making sure to play 3 MST and 3 Cosmic Cyclone so that we can get rid of the opponent's back row and basically protect our Madolche Madolche, allow us to do our whole combo uninterrupted. And in that same vein, we're also playing 3 Forbidden Chalice and 3 Book of Moon. If the opponent has any monsters that would interrupt us, we can use these to turn those off so we can still do our play uninterrupted. Of course, part of staying alive is using removal back row. The compulsory evacuation device will bounce a monster on the field. Ring of Destruction will destroy a monster in the field and make both players take burn equal to half of their attack. So those two in conjunction with the Forbidden Chalice and Book of Moon can also be really good for interrupting the opponent. The other neat thing is that Cosmic Cyclone and Ring of Destruction can help you to activate your Draw Sense Low Level skill by lowering your life points. I'd like to say that you can pretty much play any back row in the deck, which you can for these slots, the trap slots, but realistically, since we are really trying not to get interrupted by the opponent, it is pretty important to play a lot of back row removal and a lot of monster disruption. So if you have any other ways of doing that, you can definitely go ahead, but these are the best in my opinion. This video is going to be a little bit different because normally I explain every card in the deck before I go into the combo. However, for this deck I'm going to explain every card as I use them, not just their effects, but the way that their effects are supposed to be used. So since we realistically only have the 3 starters in the deck and the 1 Pedincessor, you could consider Pedincessor a starter too, but realistically 3 Madolche, that's the main starter that we're trying to get all the time. If you're going first, you have roughly a 45% chance of having it in your opening hand, and if you're going second, you have roughly a 53% chance of having it in your opening hand. So now and then you are going to be able to do the combo on your first turn of the duel, but so that we can pretty much confirm that we're always going to get it, the main game plan of the deck is to pretty much have a handful of back row on the opening play, set the back row, interrupt the opponent, and pretty much keep yourself alive and hope that your skill activates. I'm going to use my Ring of Destruction here, get rid of their Salamain Great Foxer, take 600 damage. They're going to use their Gazelle, cool for them, they'll send something else, and they'll attack me, which is exactly what I want them to do. Obviously we want to use our back row to keep ourselves alive, but the main thing is to allow ourselves to take 1000 points of damage so that we can activate our skill. They have back row, so I might as well Cosmic it. Then when it comes to our draw phase, we can activate the skill and we will randomly draw a level 4 monster. The majority of the time it's going to be Madolche Madolche. So when this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, shuffle this card into your deck. But the main effect here is when this card is normal or flip summoned, you can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. We use it and we're going to search for Madolche Pedincessor. It also has the Madolche effect of this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck. And then it has 2 effects unique to itself. You can only use once per turn. If you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Madolche monster from your hand or deck except for another copy of itself. And if you do, reduce its level by 1, and you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Madolche monsters. So, since we don't have any monsters in the grave, we can special summon this. And it will activate its effect on special summon to special summon a Madolche from the deck, and the one we're always going to summon is Madolche Pedincessor. If this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck. And while you have no monsters in the graveyard, this card gains 800 attack and defense. And after damage calculation, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy that target. We're not actually really going to use the Pudding Cess's effects, we're mainly summoning it because the Petting Cessor makes it a level 4, it being a level 5. If we wanted to summon another level 4 from the deck, it would be level 3, and we couldn't use it for Xyz plays. Also, the name of this card is going to be relevant in this combo. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle. It requires 2 level 4 monsters, and you can quick effect detach a material from this card, then target a Madolche monster on the field. This turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by monster effects except its own. And if a Madolche card is sent to your graveyard while this card is on the field, except during the damage step, you can shuffle up to 2 cards from the graveyards into the deck, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So when we summon the Glass Souffle, which is our next play, we're going to use the Petting Cessor and the Pudding Cess. We're always making sure to use both of these specifically. We're going to summon in the extra monster zone as well. And we're going to use its ignition effect to basically detach a material. We're always going to detach the Petting Cessor because Pudding Cess being a material is going to be relevant later. So we're going to detach the Petting Cessor to target one of our monsters to make it unaffected by card effects. It doesn't really matter which one. I'll usually target itself. And then it will ask you whether or not you can shuffle cards from the field into the graveyard, and if your opponent has cards in the graveyard, which this one does, then you can say yes to this. Or if you have back row in your grave that you can shuffle back, you can say yes. However, if the only card in either player's graveyards is just your 1 copy of Petting Cessor, then you don't activate this, because we actually want the Petting Cessor to be in the graveyard here. So here in this case I will say yes, but just keep in mind that sometimes you're going to need to say no. So I'm going to shuffle 2 of the opponent's cards into the deck. That's one of the great things that's great about this deck, is that you're turning off some of your opponent's grave cards. And then, using the Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle, we can special summon Madolche Pudding Cess Chocolat à la Mode. It normally requires 2 level 5 earth monsters, but you can also Xyz summon this card by using a rank 4 or lower Madolche Xyz monster you control as the Xyz material, and Xyz materials attached to that monster also become Xyz materials on this card. And once per turn, you can target a Madolche card in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. So that's why we still want the Petting Cessor in the grave, so we can shuffle it into the deck using the Chocolat à la Mode. And while this card has Madolche Pudding Cess, that being this one that we made sure not to detach, when a Madolche card is shuffled into the main deck, that being by its own effect shuffling the Petting Cessor into the deck, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to special summon a Madolche monster from your deck in attack position or face down defense position. Be careful about that, because you don't want to summon in defense mode, because it will be in face down and you won't be able to use it for an Xyz summon. So gonna go into that. In the extra monster zone, going to activate its ignition effect to shuffle back the Petting Cessor, which will trigger its own effect to detach a material. Detaching the Xyz so that we can activate it again. Summoning any level 4 from the deck, I usually go for Madolche. And then using these 2 monsters, we can go into Madolche Queen Tiramisu. It requires 2 level 4 Madolche monsters, and once per turn you can detach an Xyz material from this card, then target up to 2 Madolche cards in your graveyard, shuffle those cards into the deck. Also after that, shuffle cards your opponent controls into the deck, up to the number of Madolche cards returned. So we're going to summon this. Something to note about the Madolche Queen Tiramisu is we can't actually use its effect if we don't already have a Madolche in the grave. However, if we do detach a material, we can reshuffle the Madolche that's detached, but we can't activate it in the first place if we don't already have a valid target to shuffle back. But that's the other amazing thing about this deck, is that you might notice that this effect removes 2 of the opponent's cards without targeting and without destroying, and that's what's going to make this deck so good at OTKing. So we're going to use this, detach a material, return 2 cards from our grave into the extra and main deck, to return up to the same amount of cards from your opponent's field into the deck. And because a Madolche was shuffled into the deck, then Pudding Cess can trigger again. Yes, it isn't once per turn, so we can use it again, detach a material, and summon a Madolche from the deck. And then here we have game. got rid of cards from the opponent's graveyard, we got rid of cards from their field, we used some back row to keep ourselves alive, and now we can just easily go for game. If you just so happen to have the Madolche in your hand already when you're going second, you can just do the exact same combo, of course making sure to use your MSTs, Book of Moons, and Forbidden Chalices to turn off your opponent's interruptions before you go in with that combo so that your combo itself is protected. If you're going first though and you happen to have a Madolche in your hand, you might prefer to just set your back row and save the Madolche for the follow-up anyway, just because even though you can do the combo going first, it can be a little bit risky. Maybe the opponent's going to be a little bit too good at breaking your board and you still want to be able to have that follow-up OTK. This version of the deck really only has that one combo, and you're pretty much always going to be using it the exact same way just to kill your opponent. Of course, you can put other cards in your extra deck like Nightmare Phoenix and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon if you happen to get yourself into a long game situation. Realistically, that's not going to happen all that often. You can technically play other back row too, however I would highly suggest that you play the Chalice, Book, Cosmic, and MST. If you are looking to play Madolche competitively, this is pretty much the way you should be doing it. However, there's another version of the deck you could play that is a lot more explosive, however, not as consistent. This is that other version of the deck. It has quite a lot more bricks in it. Generally, we aren't trying to open Pedincessor and Puddingcess in the other version. However, in this version, we're also not trying to open Madolche Hootcake, Madolche Messengelado, Madolche Chateau, and Madolche Knights. That's a lot more cards that we don't want to see in our opening hand. And the more cards in your deck that you don't want to see in your opening hand, the more likely you're going to draw at least one of them. And while the other version of the deck can pretty much always have Magellin using the Draw Sense lower level skill, this deck has the other starter, Summoner Monk, which can't do as much, but technically speaking you can use this, normal summon it, use its effect to discard a spell card to special summon a level 4 monster from your deck, that being the Madolche Pedincessor, and you won't be able to go as hard in your combos. However, you're probably going to be better than nothing. This version of the deck also takes advantage of the Switcheroo skill, trying to use Cosmic Cyclone to make you take 1,000 points of damage, so you can shuffle your bricks back into the deck to hopefully draw into one of your starters. And then of course there's also Into the Void to help you dig into your deck more, hopefully see one of your starters again. As you can see, this deck is a lot more flimsy, but if this is more the playstyle that you're looking for, I'll show you the combo for it as well. But here, so this hand is pretty much a key example of why you might not want to play this deck. We have drawn one of our many bricks, however I do have a Cosmic Cyclone, so maybe I can turn my toggle on, activate Into the Void, chain Cosmic Cyclone to banish my own Into the Void. So I'll draw the card off of the Into the Void, and then I will use the skill to hopefully shuffle Madolche Hootcake into the deck and draw a card that isn't a brick. Yep, I drew an Into the Void, and I won't use it just in case I draw into a brick. But here we have the one card combo going first, pretty damn good. Gonna use the Magellin, and just like the standard combo, going to search for Pedincessor. And just like the standard combo, going to special summon the Pedincessor, which will special summon from the deck, just like the other combo, the level 5 Puddingcess, making it a level 4. Then we can turn those into a Glass Souffle, just like the other combo. And since we're going first, we are always going to say no to the effect to shuffle into the deck. We're going to go into the Chocolat a la mode, use its ignition effect to return the Pedincessor, which will allow us to use its trigger effect to special summon from the deck. And here is where the combo gets different from the other version. Because we're going first, it doesn't make sense to try to return cards from our opponent's field into the deck using a Tiramisu. Instead, we're going to summon a Hootcake in attack position, remember? And then we're going to activate its effect, banish that Xyz from graveyard to special summon a Messengelado from the deck. So Hootcake has the same effect as every other Madolche, that it shuffles itself back into the deck on destruction, but also you can target a monster in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon any Madolche from your deck. So we're going to summon Messengelado because when this card is special summoned, you can add a Madolche spell trap from deck to hand, and you have to control a beast to activate it. Hootcake is a beast. So Messengelado is going to activate, and we're going to search Madolche Knights. And why would we search Madolche Knights? Well, when a monster effect is activated, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, negate the activation. Then if you control a Madolche Puddingcess, shuffle a random card from your opponent's hand into the deck. Since we have 2 level 4s on the field, we can also go into our second copy of Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle. We can set our Madolche Knights, and during the opponent's turn we're going to be able to detach material from the Glass Souffle to make any one of our monsters unaffected by monster effects, and then because of its own effect we will be able to shuffle cards from the graveyards into the deck, so that's a bit of a DD Crow effect. And if we happen to shuffle a Madolche from our grave, including the one we detached, then Chocolat a la mode will be able to detach material to special summon a Madolche from the. So this turn 1 play is obviously incredibly broken as long as we don't brick, right? I say as long as we don't brick, but as you can see the deck does need to have quite a lot of bricks in order to be playable, which is why generally we're going to be going with the other version. So since this version is more consistent, you're probably better off to be playing this version. And as we speak, this version of the deck is actually currently tier 3. So if you want to play this deck competitively, go ahead and play this version. However, if you're not yet convinced, I do have some replays to show you. So I'm going second here. I just so happen to have the Madolche in my opening hand, and that it has about a 50% chance of happening. The opponent's going to be playing 6 Samurai, and they obviously have a Shien and a Duel Wield. So if I can turn down that Shien, then I'm also going to be turning down that Duel Wield. So I'm going to activate Book of Moon and he's going to negate it. Thankfully I have a second one, but you know, we play basically 6 copies of cards that stop things, so having that Forbidden Chalice would basically allow me to do the same thing. Also, if I had a Cosmic Cyclone or MST, then I could use my Book of Moon to bait out the negate to get rid of that back row, because that back row is the main thing that I'm worried about here. I'm going to use Book of Moon to turn down his Shien, which also turns off his Dual Wield. Going to normal summon Madolche, which searches for the Petting Cessor. Petting Cessor summons itself, and then we special summon a Pudding Cess from the deck. Then we use Petting Cessor and Pudding Cess to go into Glass Souffle. Then we detach Petting Cessor to make itself unaffected, and shuffle 2 of our opponent's cards into the deck using its trigger effect. Pretty good. And then we can go into Chocolat a la mode, activate its ignition effect, shuffling back the Petting Cessor, activating Chocolat a la mode's trigger effect, detaching a material to summon a level 4 from deck, going into the Tiramisu, detaching 2, shuffling 2 from my grave into the deck, and then shuffling 2 from his field back into the deck, and then I can just go for game. I'm going first and happen to have the Madolche. It does happen about half of the time, but I'm still not using it, just to show as an example that we're trying to keep it in our hand for the follow-up play. So I can set 3 back row to keep me alive, and they're going to be playing Ancient Gears. At first I thought that they were going to be playing Mech Knights because of the skill, but you know, they're playing Ancient Gears, so they're very good at killing people. You know, so I thought it would be a nice little replay, just because if I can stop Ancient Gears from killing me, then I can probably stop anyone from killing me. Anyway, so I'm going to negate that Hunting Hound so that they can't fusion summon, because if they could fusion summon, it would be pretty hard for me to get through them. But they're still going to do 1,000 damage to me, so if I didn't have the Madolche, it would have been fine. I still would have top decked a Madolche. So I'm going to normal summon it, search for a Petting Cessor, special summon the Petting Cessor. Petting Cessor will special summon a Pudding Cess from the deck. Then I can use both of those to go into a Teacher Glass Souffle, detach a material, say no to its effect, go into Chocolat a la mode, use its ignition effect to shuffle back the Petting Cessor, which will trigger the Chocolat a la mode to summon a level 4 from deck. Madolche, go into Tiramisu, detach a material, shuffle 2 from my grave into the deck, and then shuffle 2 from his field into the deck and go for game. This version of the deck is really consistent. Pretty much every game goes the exact same way. We set back row, interrupt the opponent, follow up with a Madolche either by having it or by using Draw Sense low level, and then we kill them. This isn't the kind of deck that you play if you're looking for versatile games, basically. You're gonna get the exact same game every time, but some of you might really like that, and if that's the case, then I really recommend this deck. Also, you know, some people just really like cute cards, and you know, if you really like cute cards, then you're probably gonna love Madolche. If you mess up during the combo, you can really just go ahead and look at the combo tutorials. It's really going to be the exact same combo every single time, so follow it step for step. But if you still have any more questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. But yeah, let me know how you feel about Madolche. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean, so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream, so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon, they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.